I moved to a neighborhood in a small town north of Denver about a year ago. I had just gone through a pretty nasty divorce at the time, and I needed a house small enough that I could afford on a single salary, and that was far enough away from my ex's family that they wouldn't come around bothering me. The house itself was an 1,100 square foot little bungalow, and it was the last house on the block before it turned into a dead end. Beyond that was a small forested area, densely packed with trees, but still not fully concealing the sounds and lights of the expressway. My neighbors were a mix of young families and retirees, and I had no issues with any of them. One afternoon, a couple of weeks after moving in, I was unpacking the last of my boxes and trying to figure out the inner workings of my new steam cleaner when there was a knock on my door. Sweating, and with a homely bun on top of my head, I opened the door to see my neighbor, Sarah, smiling warmly and elegantly. She held the stems of 2 wine glasses between the fingers of one hand. In her other hand, a bottle of white wine. Sarah and I had hit it off the first day I moved in. She was sweet and hilarious. I welcomed her in, but we eventually settled into 2 folding chairs on the front porch, drinking wine and chatting about nothing of significance. Halfway through the bottle of wine, Sarah cleared her throat and mindfully crossed her legs into a criss-cross position, rotating slightly more towards me. She smiled at me sympathetically, and it caught me a bit off guard. Laughing softly and awkwardly, I asked her what she was thinking. "I'm really hoping someone's told you already, because if not, I have to tell you," and she trailed off, laughing uncomfortably and tucking her hair behind her ear. She stared at her hands for a moment. "What are you talking about?" An irrational thought that it had something to do with my ex intruded my mental space, and my heart began hammering in my chest as I fought to keep Sarah's gaze. "Has anyone said anything to you about the knocking at night? Anyone from the HOA or another neighbor?" "No, knocking," I stammered, feeling a little tipsier than I'd planned to and swiveling a bit towards Sarah. "It wouldn't have started yet, but soon. People have been knocking on our doors late at night. Every night." "Who?" She shrugged, meeting my eyes with another sympathetic look. "I mean, are they doing anything malicious?" "No," she said, keeping the shape from the word on her lips for a few seconds and avoiding my eyes. "No, nothing like that. I guess they're stories like poems, riddles, confessions." "Sarah, what the hell?" I laughed, truly feeling that she was messing with me. People are just opening their doors late at night all willy-nilly and just listening to these random-ass people's stories. "Okay, thank you for the heads up." "No, I know how it sounds, I really do. And if you don't believe it, okay. But I wanted to tell you because when you hear the knocking, probably tonight you shouldn't ignore it. You have answer, and you have to listen, okay? You listen until they're done, no matter what they say." Sarah was expressionless. I could see clearly that she was, in fact, not being mischievous and silly, and she was not amused by her account of the knocking. I began to consider that she may have had a mental difference and was experiencing a delusion or something similar. But I could feel that it was real to her. "Okay, Sarah, I'm sorry I laughed, and I hear you." She nodded and patted my knee softly, stood up and said she was headed home. My eyes wide in disbelief, I got up quickly and walked into my house as Sarah walked away towards her own, neither of us caring to retrieve the empty wine bottle or glasses. I spent the rest of the evening stepping over boxes instead of moving them, snacking on various items straight out grocery bags and watching true crime documentaries on YouTube. Halfway through a Dahmer body language analysis, I heard a soft rap on my front door, and my bloodstream filled with a moderate amount of adrenaline. No way, no freaking way, I said aloud to nobody at all, hobbling over to the front door with my left foot asleep. I looked through the small window on the front door and saw a relatively small and normal-looking old woman peering back at me. She wore a lilac sweater and pearls around her neck. I opened the door, frustrated but curious. "Hello. Hello, miss. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm sure you feel this is a bit unorthodox, but it happens to be time for our visit if you'll have me." I was about to have a heart attack. The lady herself was totally non-threatening, but the circumstances had me feeling a strange numbness and shock about the situation. Had I moved into the neighborhood of a cult? Maybe it was a crazy tradition, but Sarah hadn't spoken about it the lovingly, slightly embarrassed way you might expect someone to talk about their weird hometown traditions. She was somber. "I'm not dressed, but I can listen from here." The lady nodded politely and began. "I've written you a poem." She looked quickly up at me with a girlish smile of pride. She reached into her sweater pocket and pulled out a small, folded paper. I nodded, trying to hide my anxiety and impatience. A small undertaking grows greater when idleness feeds the weight of later. Each moment passes, a silent loss, stealing time. "What is the cost?" The woman peered past me into my living room, her gaze meeting a stack of boxes piled next to my coffee table covered in grocery bags and open snack containers. "Sorry, just moved in," I said, smiling. 5 days ago, dear." "Are you finished?" I asked, no longer hiding my irritation. She nodded, her eyes meeting mine with what seemed like authority. I closed and locked the door, turning towards my living room and feeling the hot sting of anger and insecurity rise up my spine. I wasn't offended by the old lady's judgment, but triggered by it. Nolan used to walk in the front door, scan the house, and berate me for every unfinished chore. Lousy bitch. Sad excuse for a woman. The little mantra of "he can't hurt you anymore" doesn't do much for the deep-seated learned belief that those things are, in fact, true. It didn't matter if he wasn't here to think these things about me. I believed them now. I fell asleep the same way I spent the day, on my couch surrounded by snacks and boxes with YouTube's algorithm crafting me an ongoing cocktail of educational and disturbing entertainment. I wasn't a procrastinator. Objectively, I was probably going through the natural ups and downs that come with moving. What I was, however, was extremely well-versed in self-sabotage. If Nolan and that nosy old lady thought I was too messy, taking too long to unpack, I would be the messiest bitch they'd ever seen. I'd live out of these boxes forever. I spitefully moved through the house the following morning, no longer stepping over boxes but forcefully pushing them out of the way with my feet. I think I'll spend time in the garden today, so I spent the entire day doing yard work. I pulled weeds, I swept away the gritty powder of leaves that fall left behind on my driveway. I pondered watering the grass, wanting to make the rest of the lawn more even with a large, much greener and healthier-looking patch near the back gate. But it was becoming too cold, and it might all be different come spring. I worked all day because I wasn't going to unpack the boxes, and I didn't want to think about the next nighttime visitor. One knock, one poem from a frail old woman, and I was officially spiraling. I was fighting the delusion that these visitors had something to do with Nolan. I knew it couldn't be, and I yanked that belief out of my mind with every weed I pulled until my arms ached and sweat stung my eyes. Weird West Coast hazing bullshit. I finally came inside to shower and eat. I opened a fifth of whiskey I'd gotten as a moving-in gift, downed half, and crashed on the couch. Boxes untouched. Dahmer's droning Midwest accent playing over the silence, and container of spinach dip starting to smell sour. But the yard looked fantastic, and the rest of the lawn would catch up to that beautiful emerald green patch someday. Around 1 a.m., there was a knock on my door. Expected, but startling nonetheless. I got up slowly, the liquor sloshing in my stomach. so quickly accumulated that it didn't even have a chance to disperse. Again, I looked through the window first, squinting nauseously against the front porch light. The damn wine glasses and bottle are still there. Standing on my porch, slightly more intimidating than the nosy old hag, was a young man who looked to be about 25. He was fit and tall and clasped his hands behind his back like a business grad at a job fair. As I opened the door, he moved a few strands of his dark hair away from his eyes and gave me a friendly-looking smile. "Ma'am," he spoke in a lilted voice. Being half drunk, half sick, and half asleep, I skipped the pleasantries and gestured for him to share his story. He unfolded a perfectly neat piece of paper, looking a bit embarrassed and eager. I almost kind of liked him. "A riddle. It's a riddle," he said, looking up at me and back down at the paper a couple of times. "I offer you escape when you feel pain. I leave you empty, but you come back again. What am I?" I squinted my eyes at him, unsure of how to read him and unsure whether he was reading me. "Jameson, apparently," I said. I don't remember the moment his smile went from nervous and friendly to full-blown contempt, but I felt it in my chest. "It smells as if that's the case," he spoke, his voice flat and disgusted. I slammed and locked the door, cursing the man and stomping back to my place on the couch. But I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with flashbacks of drunken fights and broken bottles. A sinking feeling of shame pulled me down and exasperated my nausea. How many sick days did you use for no reason other than being hungover? That was when I first left Nolan. I was just trying to survive. I drowned my thoughts with the remainder of the 5th. The following afternoon, I awoke to a pounding headache and an extreme case of agitation. The ice machine's sound was an ice pick in my temple, and the heat was up too high. I'd had enough of my own shit and pulled myself of the couch, opened every window and clung desperately to Tylenol and Gatorade as I finally unpacked every box and cleaned the house. I was sick and sluggish. My insecurities were burning on the surface of my skin, and my anxiety was screeching in my mind. But I pulled through and made the house look a little more like home. I traded the true crime videos for an exceedingly more wholesome Bob's Burgers and repeated the mantras my old therapist had equipped me with. I am enough as I am. Their words are a reflection of them, not me. I took a break to make a cup of tea and stared out the kitchen window into my backyard. A growing sense of pride filled heart that the house was becoming as beautiful as its outdoor counterpart. I cocked my head, again noticing the lawn. How is that damn patch even greener yet? Why is the rest browning so fast? It's no less than 40 degrees. I trust that everything will fall into place in time. Midnight was upon me in no time, and I tucked myself into my little bed on the couch, stretching my legs out and embracing comfort and rest. I felt more at peace with myself and my home. Just as I began to nod off, I heard the inevitable knock on my front door. The whole thing was getting old, but I wasn't going to let it get me upset again. I set an intention to treat whoever the visitor would be with kindness. I didn't understand or agree with this ritual, but I lived here now. I wouldn't take it personally, and I would respectfully listen and go back to sleep. I opened the door gently, peering at my visitor with curiosity. Black hair, blue eyes, collared shirt. My heart hammered in my chest, and the sickening familiar sense of floating invaded my body. Something between vertigo and the 7th layer of hell. I knew it wasn't actually Nolan. But damn, he looked a lot like him, and PTSD is one hell of a trip. My mouth went dry, and I held onto the doorframe aggressively. I nodded, with everything I had left in me, urging the man to tell his story. "Hi, I know it's extra late, I'm sorry. This whole thing is a little silly, right?" he said, sensing my discomfort and smiling sympathetically. "It's okay. Want to come sit here on the porch? You seem very tired." He gestured gently towards the chairs and the table that still held the wine bottle and glasses. "I'm sorry, I forgot again." No, it's fine. I can stand here," I said. "Great, okay, I have a confession. But that feels a bit heavy, so I'm going to make it into a game. Cool?" He seemed perfectly kind, but I felt half dead in my body and I wasn't interested in playing along. I nodded, nonetheless. "Okay, I start with a sentence or two and you finish it." I actively pressed into the four corners of my feet like that yoga teacher taught me. "Okay. When I feel overwhelmed, I like to cry." He chuckled warmly. "Okay, nice one. Okay, it's only fair for abusers to be held accountable." "Right. Can't argue with that. You're doing great. Even at the expense of a cringe-inducing ringing in my ears nearly put me on the floor." "What is this? Can you just tell me your thing? I'm not feeling well. Please." "Okay, no worries. That's a tough one. Last one, and it's just like a little poem, okay? You'll like it." Slow, deep breaths. I did the best I could with what I had, his transgressions running around in my head. I'm a mangled mess of the words he said. Tear-stained cheeks and eyes stained red. He can't be stopped, so he has to be. I gathered every bit of power I had to slam the front door shut, but the man blocked it with both hands, pushing firmly and gritting his teeth. He has to be, he shrieked, eyes bulging as his two hands countered the force of my entire body on the door. Finish it, damn it, and be done with it. You need to let this go." "Dead!" I screamed, my voice breaking and threatening to tear my throat. Dead. He had to be dead. He couldn't be stopped, so he had to be dead. It was him or me. You don't understand. I sobbed and slid down the door to the cold ground, rounding my body into a ball. I don't know when the man left. I don't know how long I lay on the wood floor with the front door wide open, and I don't know how long it'll be until they take me away. I'm staring out my kitchen window, smoking a cigarette. I don't remember where the greener patch of grass was. It's all covered in snow. Some stories leave marks that don't fade. If this one gripped you, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There's more to uncover, and I promise the next tale will take you even deeper into the unknown. Until then, keep your doors locked and listen carefully to the knocks in the night.